Good morning, everyone. Welcome to All Souls. We seek to be a welcoming congregation. You are welcome here as a fellow human, regardless of walk of life, race, creed, color, sexual orientation, sexual identity, kinks, affinity for dad jokes or puns, or other social expectations previously placed on you. We are glad you are here with us this morning. And that includes everyone in virtual attendance, if you want to give a quick wave. This morning, we are joined by the Reverend Kelly Groves Dignan. Kelly serves our faith tradition as the executive director of UU Ministry for Earth, which has been around since 1989. They are a national UU nonprofit, separate from the UUA, but in close partnership with it. They offer spiritual grounding and educational support for earth care and climate justice. Kelly is going to provide a little bit of both education and spiritual grounding for our congregation today. And Kelly has offered the following as our call to all souls this morning. Okay. A Prayer for Living Intention by Joseph M. Cherry. If we have any hopes of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sharing. We give with the faith that together we have enough. Instructions for giving via text, online, or with a check will be on the chat and on the screen here in the building. And this congregation will receive these offerings with deep gratitude and the commitment to spend them in our efforts to do some good in this world.
I invite you to join me in a meditation, if you will. Yeah. Oh, I hear some moving around. That's exactly what I was going to suggest. So find your feet on the ground if that's comfortable for you. Your body in the pew. You might roll your shoulders a little bit. Just come on into your body. How comfortable or uncomfortable it might be today. Some days we have feeling good in our bodies and some days not so much. Might feel your toes and both your heels on the ground if you can. And just let's notice the element of air. Love these fans. There's this light breeze in the room today, and there's a little breeze coming in through this back door. So as you notice the air around you, notice the air moving into you. As you breathe at your own pace, however that's comfortable for you, in and out. In times of struggle and confusion and chaos, sometimes it helps to ground. Ground to earth, breathe in air, feel sunshine on our shoulders. Notice the interconnected web of life of which we are a part. We're not alone. We're completely held by others in the web and the healing of the Spirit, by universal love that will never let us go. You may just notice your heart center. You can put your hands there if you'd like. And as you continue to breathe, just notice if your chest is moving up and down. Universal love, the foundation of universalism, a universal love that will never, ever let us go. And a love that radiates out from each of us, not so that we're exhausted by compassion, but when we remember to refuel ourselves with that universal love, we're able to shine out, shine out, shine out. So feel yourself shining and connecting to everyone else in this room. You might imagine our big light together, expanding, filling the room, and shining out into the neighborhood. Hope and love. Might wiggle your toes now. Notice your breath. Amen.
A poem by the 24th Poet Laureate of the United States, Ada Limon. 3 guys in fluorescent vests are taking down a tree along my neighbor's fence line, which, of course, is my fence line, with my 2 round-eyed snakes and my wandering raccoon. That is, if you go in for ownership, my. For weeks, the tree they're cutting grew tight with a neon pink band around its trunk, a marking so you knew it was going to die. Must have been at least 50 years old. A non-fruiting mulberry with loads of winter creeper crawling up the bark. Still, it hung low by the power lines, its fruitless limbs leaning over the wire like it didn't care one bit about power. Just inching up toward the sun, under the hackberry. The men are laughing between the chainsaw growls, the metal jaws of machinery. It is a sound that sounds like killing. I can barely listen. But then they are conversing in Spanish, and it brings me a mercy to hear them make a joke about the heat, the lineup of jobs that day. Once, my friend Mundo wanted palm fronds for his patio, so he put on an orange vest and climbed a towering palm right in the center of town. No one ever questions a Mexican in an orange shirt, he said. And we clinked glasses around his new tiki bar. My grandfather worked for Con Edison for years. I thought power was something you could control, something one could do at a desk or at a job site, to work in the field of power. Now the tree is gone. The men are gone. Just a ground down stump where what felt like wisdom once was.
I love Mary Oliver. I even brought my signed copy of Mary Oliver's book, Devotions. It says here, "For Kelly, with best wishes, Mary Oliver." Stop my beating heart. Oh, I love her. I love her. I love her. I love to open up and just read. Let's see, what do I have here? How I go to the woods. Ordinarily, I go to the woods alone, not with a single friend, for they are all smilers and talkers and therefore unsuitable. I don't really want to be witnessed talking to the catbirds or hugging the old black oak tree. I have my own way of praying, as no doubt you have yours. Besides, when I'm alone, I can become invisible. For decades, nature poetry has evoked images of people alone, awe-filled, making meaning for themselves, and we love these poems. Thoreau, Wendell Berry, Mary Oliver, and we never, ever need to stop reading them. But the poem we just heard, Power Lines by Ada Limon, is an example of what is being called a new era of nature poetry. That one in particular is found in her book called The Hurting Kind. And then there's this whole other beautiful brand new book called You Are Here, full of nature poetry. And for the most part, these newer poems include descriptions not of pristine landscapes, but of local, intimate, often very gritty settings, like bus stops, backyards, critters under decks, or city parks, dying, non-fruiting mulberry trees. And most of the poems in these newer books include multiple people, men climbing power poles in fluorescent orange vests, Spanish, people at parties together in community. The poems reflect on nature. They also reflect on the collective state of the world, and they speak of justice, that all people have the right to flourish with inherent worthiness and dignity. So just as the poetry and the nature poetry landscape is changing to become more and more intersectional, so is the climate movement. And again, we never throw out Mary Oliver, do we? No, right? We do both and. So what I'm about to describe to you is the newest thinking, and just a little bit of this is the education part of the sermon, okay? Your UUA climate organizer is a woman named Rachel Misslivy. She works for the UUA. I work for UU Ministry for Earth. She and I talk almost daily. Her job is to support congregations in doing climate justice. My job is to help congregations, UUs and beyond, ground that work in spirituality. And we work hand in hand. So Rachel is a good friend of mine, and she describes the evolution that's going on in the climate movement right now. So I've heard her describe it bunches of times, and I'm going to paraphrase her here. There is environmentalism, which for decades has focused on preserving the natural world from harmful practices to create a sustainable future for all beings. All good stuff. Unfortunately, much of that work has been tainted by racism and white privilege. There are many examples of very well-intentioned environmentalists who have prioritized access to nature for white folks. I hate to say it. I hate to be the one that gets up here and says all this, but it's true, right? I have to speak some truth. And at worst, some of these environmentalists really restrict access to nature for the BIPOC community. There's also, I can give you all kinds of examples, but I'm not going to, but it's happening. Then there's climate action, which for a long time has been focused on reducing emissions that causes climate change. We've viewed climate and energy issues as technical problems with technical solutions, right? We need cleaner energy, so we need electric vehicles, we need energy efficiency, we need solar, we need wind, all good stuff. And over the past 4 to 6 years, there's been a reckoning in this world. Technologies like solar and energy-efficient homes in general are most often far out of reach for middle and lower income people, Americans. Electric or hybrid cars, mostly expensive. Energy-efficient homes or even air conditioning. My next-door neighbor, no air conditioning. They're just not accessible to everyone. What we can get is tunnel vision. We can get what we're calling carbon tunnel vision, where we have a singular focus on carbon emissions and we overlook so many other related concerns like resource scarcity, inequality, poverty, and health. So let's take, for instance, air pollution. There was an article in The Guardian on Friday that Denver has the worst air pollution in the whole United States of America. And in cities like Denver, black children are much more likely to die from asthma than their white counterparts. Climate issue, right? Absolutely, but we have to look at why is the air quality bad. In Denver's case, racial discrimination and housing redlining caused a chronic disinvestment in Commerce City. Polluting industries, Suncor moves right into that community. So we've got inversion, bad air pollution anyway, right, in Colorado, but then you add an oil refinery in a neighborhood, right? And of course, our BIPOC, mostly immigrant community, is more likely to die than their white counterparts outside the city. Houses are not air conditioned, there's no indoor escape. Climate justice is racial justice. I talked to Sarah Hotzinger last week, and she reminded me that right here in downtown Colorado Springs, the number of unhoused folks is rising. We know that severe weather affects us all, but it affects our siblings who are unhoused disproportionately, not just physically because they don't have a home, let alone air conditioning, but also mentally and emotionally. As mental health conditions grow, so often does criminalization. The same is true in Title I district in Southeast Colorado Springs. You all know much more about this than I do, but those neighborhoods are the poorest, rife with gang activity, and they are the neighborhoods with more concrete and asphalt, fewer trees and plants, where daytime temperatures are 1 to 7 degrees higher than in suburban or rural areas. We call those heat islands, urban heat islands. Again, no air conditioning in homes most of the time, no escape from the heat, a rise in mental health cases, and a rise in potentially more criminalization. Climate complicates an already complicated situation. So climate is poverty, hunger, homelessness, justice. Climate justice is racial justice. Think about all the good work you did during the Waldo Canyon fire in 2012. I remember it. 347 homes were destroyed. And then the Black Forest fire, the very next year, 500 homes destroyed, and you all opened this church to wildfire refugees. Just like you did to undocumented immigrants. You were the only sanctuary church in Colorado Springs. I remember all of that too. Yes, you can give yourself some appreciation there. You see, climate justice is refugee justice. So where we are today is in a shift from pure environmentalism and climate action, again, not forgetting about those things. We don't have to forget about Mary Oliver. We don't have to forget about preserving forests and land. We don't have to forget about carbon emissions, but we also have to remember that we can't create solutions that help people who are already privileged. Climate and justice go together. So, We got some more applause. I know. I'm going to get to in just a minute how this can all feel a little overwhelming, so don't worry. I see some of you going, oh boy. So as we expand our understanding of climate as an intersectional justice issue, we can turn to Article 2, which was passed at our General Assembly in June. And here are some things from that speak right to what I'm talking about. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation, right? Both and, Earth and beings, including humans. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality, and justice, right? We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. And we declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. Climate justice, yes, you can clap. I love this congregation, amen. Climate justice is economic justice, is racial justice, is immigration justice, is disability justice. Climate justice requires voting and democracy, you all. It's all intersectional. Audre Lorde told us there's no such thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives. So in our congregations, we can kind of get singularly focused. I've been in a bunch, right? And our justice work can show up, I'm not saying this is true here, I have no idea, but it can show up as siloed justice teams in competition with each other. I see this happening all over the country. We are stronger when we work together. Now, I think I've got your justice, Ron, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Your justice priorities this year are you the vote, climate, dismantling racism, peace and anti-war, poverty, homelessness, and hunger. Is that right? Does that sound about right? More or less, okay. Sarah and I talked, so, all right. So you might ask, we already have teams that are addressing all of that separately. It seems complicated that we might even think about working together. How in the world are we going to do that? Well, there's good news. Support is on its way. Because you all signed up, along with more than 300 other UU congregations, for the Climate Justice Revival. Everything you're going to need is ready to roll. Every single piece of the curriculum and the worship, this is what's going to happen. The Saturday of September 28th, you'll have 4 hours of workshops. The kids, all the children and youth, have full curriculum on climate justice, so it's not just daycare, like we so often have when we do all church justice stuff. Amazing religious educators from across the country have created pre-K, 1 through 3, 4 through 6, middle school, high school, young adult curriculum. That way, parents can talk to children at home, and you all can continue doing this amazing work I see happening on building a multi-generational community, right? So Saturday, 4 full hours for children and youth. Young adults can choose to do their own thing with a curriculum, or they can join older adults, like me, who will participate in interactive, guided, facilitated activities to do a couple of things. Identify which of your Colorado Springs neighbors are most impacted by climate injustice. I think you are getting close to knowing that already. Determine the possibilities for climate justice in your unique setting, and it doesn't have to be a huge, hairy deal. Clarify a vision, and then identify some specific goals that you'll accomplish this year. Now, all your justice teams are coming together for this. You the vote, racial justice, all of it. Your poverty, homelessness justice, everyone's together. This is not just the little green team doing this thing, right? We're building an all-church event here. On Sunday, then each of you will get to choose what your role could be based on what brings you joy. This work is already hard, so we don't need to be going into doom and gloom. The whole purpose of a revival is to revive us, to bring some joy to this, right? Yes. And so we don't have to sit around and lament all the statistics. We're going to say, okay, that's happening. Here's what we can do. And I love to make food, so that's going to be my job. All right? I love to go on the streets. That's going to be my job. You get to choose what your job is. Then on Sunday, you're going to have a big, old, beautiful worship service in Ron Ferris style. So they'll be singing, praying. We've provided a full worship service script, but you all can do whatever you want. There's ritual, which I know you love, that will be for a blessing for the work ahead. And then after that, organizing hour. So 1 hour after church, I'm hoping your UU the Vote team could get engaged in that because it's about organizing and voting. We're not clueless that there's an election coming up here, right? And climate justice is democracy. It requires it. Yep. So, I'm hearing you think, 4 hours on Saturday, really? And then also Sunday with that whole extra hour thing. Can't we just go light here and cut that Saturday thing in half? I'm going to give you a few things here. It's going to be way more work for you to cut the thing in half. I mean, the whole program is laid out, word for word, scripts, like your facilitators, we hope you get 2 facilitators trained. All of this is new information. The materials came out August 1st. So you hopefully get 2 facilitators to get trained. It all goes together. Secondly, this is a chance for you all to really work together, to coordinate efforts, to come together as a full church, to work together throughout the year. The teamwork built on Saturday will continue. The revival is a start, not an end. Third, we are in a critical time in history. Are we not? So if not this work on these intersectional challenges, given this time with this election at stake, then what else and when else? Yeah. Oh, you all. Lastly, the revival, like I said, will revive us. It can get to be too much. The whole point is of a revival, okay, and are you worried it's going to be in a tent and there's going to be an altar call and you're going to be asked to give your life to somebody? No. But we're using UU version of revival here, right? We're coming together. We've commissioned a hymn, this awesome song by Adam Pott and Leah Morris. And the whole point of a revival is to revive us and recommit us and sustain us for the work ahead. So it'll remind us of the religious and spiritual reasons we do any of this in the first place. We are not a nonprofit organization secularly organizing for justice. We're a denomination. We're a religion. We're a spiritual community, yeah? And you're not going to be alone. Almost all the congregations in the Boulder, Denver, Colorado Springs, Fort Collins are doing it. Not all of them are doing it on September 28th and 29th. Some are doing it in October. There's already talk about gathering you all together afterwards here in the Front Range to say, okay, this is what we chose. This is what we chose. Is there any legislation at the state capitol that addresses this stuff? Let's go. Let's go. So we're building a big movement locally and then nationally. 300 congregations is a third of our denomination, and it's only growing every day. And there'll be more and more. We can do another revival. You could do another revival next year with your interfaith partners. So, not the end, it's a beginning. The reason we do it, though, is because of our values and our commitment to interdependence and love. So if we go back to that meditation, which, by the way, was not written by the person that was up there. I decided to go for an ad-libber. So let the Spirit lead. We center in our hearts, we center in love, and we remember our connection to the web of life, right? That's a spiritual practice for us. We ground everything we do in love. We put love at the center, capital L, love. We protect what we love. We allow love to be more real than any fear or sadness. And we remember those ancestors of ours who told us there's a big love that will never let us go. So we do this work for justice, not just so we can feel good about ourselves, which sometimes it does make us feel good, but we do it because we know the interdependent web of life needs us to bring goodness to the web, and because love grounds us. Yep. So I invite us all, you already are embracing the spirit of revival. Lots of resources and help, hallelujah, praise. We're at Colorado Springs down here. We do it our own way, don't we? Don't be afraid when you open up the facilitator guide or any of that. Tons of training available, tons of support. I'm here to help you. So what we're doing is we're doing both and. Mary Oliver, I love her. We all love her. She's a UU saint, right? So we honor all the work we're doing for environmentalism and carbon emissions reduction. And we look at justice, and we combine the two right here in this work for climate justice, putting love at the center. Amen. So we extinguish this chalice, but not the power of love, right? Yep. And the power of community and the power of the web of life. We take that with us as we go forward with all kinds of courage, boldness, and hope. Blessed be.
We gotta put one foot in front of the other.